Hello Leo, welcome to Soul Good. I'm Amber Marie and this is your April 2023 Tarotscope. In the description box below you will find all sorts of goodies to explore, including a timestamp if you would like to jump to the start of your reading. But before you do that, I would like to remind you that this is a collective reading, not a personal reading. So please do use your discernment and take only what resonates with you and leave the rest. I would also like to share that I feel that these readings are very much focused, if you will, on this solar eclipse energy and this Mercury retrograde energy that we have coming in for us here at the end of the month. So that's not to say that some of these things may not have already manifested into your world or that you haven't already experienced some of these things showing up for you, but I do feel like there's something about this eclipse and Mercury retrograde that follows where this information is going to come into play. Okay, so that may mean that you have revelations or some kind of epiphany during that time, and then this information makes sense after the fact, or something like that. Okay, but let's jump in and see what you've got going on for you. So we are going to be using a spread that dropped into my field at the end of March, and I've been eagerly waiting to be able to use it. So we're going to be looking at what you can do to align with your highest timeline and Christ consciousness, what's helping you to evolve, what's limiting your evolution, and getting some advice, encouragement, or guidance for you as well. So let's get to it. Please, Father, Mother, Life, Universe, Spirits, Guides, Angels, our cosmic team, our ancestors, our higher selves, what can Leo do to align with their highest timeline and Christ consciousness this month, please? April 2023. I just heard the word focus, so that might resonate for some of you. Okay, what can Leo do to, thank you. All right, nice. One card coming out for you, Leo. That tells me it's a very straight to the point, direct message, and I like to see that. What is helping Leo to evolve this month, please? Okay, thank you. What is limiting? Okay, how would you like me to? Okay. That was going to be what's limiting your evolution, but there it is. Can we please have some advice, encouragement, or guidance for Leo angels? Advice, encouragement, or guidance for Leo, please, angels. Okay, thank you. Fantastic. All right, let's jump in. So what can you do to align with your highest timeline and Christ consciousness? You do have here star gathering, stars aligned, remembering home, and soul family. Okay, so I'm getting a couple of things. First, the first thing that I'm getting coming in is remembering home, but I feel like this is about you essentially reconnecting with yourself, perhaps. Remembering who you are, remembering, yeah, it feels like remembering like the core of who you are. I feel like for some of you, you may have been working through some things that have been, actually the word I'm getting is like, or the words that I'm getting are like hard pills to swallow. So you may have been working on your own healing and your own evolution and been having to deal with some painful things or traumatic things or, you know, difficult healings. So I feel like there's yeah, I feel like you may have had to accept or acknowledge some difficult truths, and I feel like this month or at this time, I feel like the thing that you can do to align with your highest timeline is to get back to who you are. Right now, I know that is likely to have shifted or changed based on what I'm picking up on, going through lots of healings, and I feel like this could be something that maybe you're struggling with. But I do feel like focusing on that is going to be helpful for you. I also feel here that this soul family bit is coming through pretty heavily. There's something here about that helping you to align with Christ consciousness, because I do feel, again, I feel like you may have been working on a lot of healing or going through a lot of healing throughout probably the first part of April, if not longer than that, maybe even since March, going through healings and things. And I feel like maybe you stepped back because it kind of feels to me like getting back to yourself is like remembering your strengths, gaining your confidence back, standing in your power, right? Maybe taking care of yourself or doing some extra little things around the self-care. That's what it feels like to me. So I feel like you may have stepped back a bit from maybe everyone or many people. And so I feel like perhaps part of aligning you with that Christ consciousness is reconnecting, right? Because when I think of, here's the thing, when I think of Christ and Christ consciousness, there are these elements of being of service and, you know, being giving and being in, how would you say, I don't want to say communion, that's not the right word, but being in, you know, relationships where there's like this give, and I don't know, it feels like there's that interaction, right? That love, that support. And it feels to me like maybe you've had to step back again to kind of take care of self or work on your own things to process. It almost feels like maybe you're now being called back, right? Kind of called back into the world, as it were, reconnecting with that soul family, okay? Or like-minded, like-souled individuals. So maybe they aren't necessarily family, maybe it's the community, right? Maybe it's your circle, things like this. I feel like you could be feeling called back to that. Another thing I'm getting here is, it's interesting because we asked, what can you do to align with your highest timeline? And you literally have stars aligned here. So I do feel like this is a good time for you to find your way back into your lane, as it were, or to align yourself. It's interesting because I just get this feeling of like coming back. I keep seeing it like this, like coming back to something. Like, so, you know, you may have kind of, I don't know, like, actually, I'm kind of seeing it, it's being shown to be kind of funny. I don't know if you've ever experienced being like woozy or intoxicated or seen someone where they're kind of walking like this, you know. I feel like that could have happened. Now, I'm not saying that you were intoxicated or anything like this, but it feels like you may have been like not fully grounded or balanced, and the things that you were experiencing may have you may have just kind of like drifted off to the side a little bit. And I'm not saying that you haven't been doing your work on healing and things like this, but I just feel like you may have just kind of strayed a little bit from the path. And maybe that's because you became overwhelmed with all of the healing that you've been doing or something like that. But it feels like the thing that you can do is to remember yourself, right? Remember who you are, come home to yourself. I also feel like home is much larger in the sense of remembering that your home is with Source. Your home is with the heart of Source. You are loved fully. You are fully accepted or unconditionally accepted, right? And so you have, I feel like there's something here about never being alone as well. Okay, so you could resonate with all of this, or maybe bits and pieces, because it feels like for some this is like okay, I get all of that, right? And then for others it feels like, okay, yeah, that's for me maybe, that's for me maybe. So do only take what resonates with you, but it feels like there's some aspect of this of remembering like you are never alone, and you have this soul family, which can consist of, say, angels and guides and ancestors, and these sorts of things, and they are always with you, always around you, guiding you. You can always lean on them, right? Remembering that you are not just a human being in this body here, right? You are a soul, and you have a, what is the word, please? Yes, thank you. You have like otherworldly connections, right? So you are never alone. I also feel like for a lot of you, you could have information dropping in with the stars aligned. For whatever reason, it's being shown to me almost like, oh, all of this thing is lined up so that you can have information drop down to you, or remember certain aspects of yourself as well, which I feel could be helpful for you at this time, or helpful with aligning with your highest timeline, or helping you to evolve further. Okay? So what is helping you to evolve? Let's take a look. We do have the Thief here. Sheds a light on the potential wealth within you that can never be stolen. Yeah, and what's interesting, right? I was talking about remembering home, remembering who you are, remembering your heart and your strength and your courage, and you know, finding your confidence again. And so I do feel like what's helping you to evolve, especially if you've been dealing with a situation where maybe you've lost a lot of people, or different aspects of your physical world. You know, maybe it's been a home situation or a living situation, or some sort of material something that maybe you have lost. I feel like why you're going through this, and it's helping you to evolve by showing you that essentially you have this heart of gold, Leo, that can never be stolen from you. It can never be taken from you, and it is up to you to maintain it. It is up to you to continue to, what is the word, nurture it. Thank you. It's up to you to also allow it to inspire your physical world, right? So I feel like this is beautiful, because it really does feel to me like some of you may have felt very lonely, or at the very least, and maybe not physically lonely, perhaps. Maybe some of you only feel lonely in the sense that people don't get you, or you feel like there are those who don't get you. But I also feel like that, like, this is literally some of you feeling isolated, alone, rejected, or something to that effect. And I feel like that part of this is helping you to evolve by showing you, right, that you have something that no one else can take away. And I feel like this time that you've spent in isolation, or feeling that way, has been to help you to understand that, or to understand that, so that you can continue to evolve knowing that. Okay? That's pretty beautiful, if you ask me. I know it may not feel that way as you move through it, but it is absolutely beautiful to me, because that's something incredibly powerful, right? To have something within you that you know that no one can take from you is an incredible power to hold. It essentially helps you to be a sovereign being, right? Because it's like, listen, it doesn't matter. I'm kind of being reminded of, some of Christ's teachings, and it's like, it doesn't matter what people do to your body. It doesn't matter if they kill you. It doesn't matter, because you have this soul within you. You have the kingdom of heaven is within you, right? And so I'm being reminded of that, and I think this is incredibly powerful for you, Leo, as you move forward. We also have here the Pioneer in the reverse, or the shadow attribute. Okay, so it does say here, compulsive need to keep moving on. Okay, so what's helping you to evolve? Yeah, it's interesting, because this is showing up in the shadow, or the reverse, which typically would be one of those things that maybe is not the greatest. But when we're looking at it from a position of what's helping you to evolve, I feel like it's just that will to keep going, right? Like I just got to keep moving. I've got to keep going. Now, I will say that there are times that maybe this doesn't work out in your favor, or maybe not be so beneficial or conducive to your growth, right? Because maybe there are things that you haven't addressed, or haven't, and maybe this is what's happened. Okay, let me just kind of backstep here a little bit. maybe this is what's happened, right? Maybe all of this stuff has come up suddenly for you to heal and work through, because that has been your way of being previously, where it's like, I'm just going to keep going. I'm not stopping. I don't care. I'm not dwelling on it. I'm just going to go. Right? Which can be helpful, but if you're avoiding the things that need your attention and you're not healing them, then, you know, that's not helpful, because you're just carrying it with you. Right? And ultimately, you know, eventually what can happen is that can become very overwhelming. So if you are somebody who has had a tremendous amounts of healing coming up, and like what feels like this big whirlwind of holy shit, what is going on? I feel like it's likely because you've had this compulsion to just dig down in that inner strength, that beautiful strength that Leos have, and have just kept going because you felt like you had no other option, right? However, on the flip side of that, I do feel like there is part of this that is helping you to evolve, because I feel like there's an aspect of you that's like, we cannot just give up. We can't just lie down and just stop, right? So if you're somebody who has been doing healing and working through it, I feel like it may become overwhelming, but you're just, okay, I'm going to work through this. I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to let it overcome me. I'm not going to stop. Right? Like, I'm going to keep going. Again, you know, I want to be very clear that continuing to move forward is only beneficial if you are actually doing the work as you move. Right? It's not helpful if you're avoiding and just, I'm just going to go. Okay? I also, yeah, I just feel like that it can be incredibly powerful. And even looking at this picture here, right? I mean, there's all, there's this light and this heart that's here in the middle, right? Which I was speaking on, like coming back to your heart. And look at this. You have, I mean, don't get me wrong, we did have this in the shadow, but we have that heart there in the thief's pocket, and this heart here as well. So I just feel like it's about that strength of heart, and I feel like that is helping you to evolve, Leo, and it will help. I feel like it will continue to help you evolve. Your heart and your capacity for love and for like warmth, right? Like I feel like it's a incredible asset for you. Okay. So let's take a look at what may be limiting your evolution. Okay, we have Don Juan and the light attribute, spotlight your positive, seductive qualities. Okay, so Leo, here's the thing. I know that Leo likes to be in the spotlight. Okay, sometimes. Now, I'm just going to share. As a Leo sun, Leo moon, I mean, don't get me wrong, I am a Capricorn rising, so it's a little bit different there, but I'm not somebody who likes to necessarily be in the spotlight. It's like I find myself there, but I don't necessarily want to be there. So I feel like for some, okay, this may not resonate with everybody, but for some, I feel like part of what may be limiting your evolution is like that need to be in the spotlight, which is interesting because it contradicts what's been coming through here thus far. But it could be that part of the reason maybe why some are struggling with that separation or feeling of isolation or rejection is because maybe you got used to being in the spotlight. All right, maybe you got used to being adored or loved or shown attention, right? And all of a sudden, you have to deal with these things where you don't have that, right? Where you have to see your, you know, that this is something you have to essentially grow in your own heart, knowing that it's not something that can just leave you, right? It's not something that can just walk away, and it's not, you know, so for example, if you have like a relationship or something, and this person is giving you affection and attention and those sorts of things, if that is where you know, that's what you put all your value in, right? Or your wealth in, if you will, then once they leave, it's like, oh shit, well now it's gone. Well, now what do I do? Now I have nothing, absolutely nothing. Well, that's not true, right? And I feel like this is something that you're growing through. I also feel like for some of you, what could be it's kind of connected to what I was just saying, but I feel like what for some of you, what could be limiting you is literally the fact that you do have this ability to be very seductive and alluring and attractive to other people. And sometimes maybe you just feed into that when you're not meant to be going through that, right? Where you're meant to be, you know, separate or in isolation or alone or in a socially dry period, as I would call it, right? Because you're meant to be working on yourself. I also feel like for some, which is really interesting, and even though I just shared with you, like, I'm not necessarily one who likes to be in the spotlight, it's interesting to me because I feel like for some, what may be limiting some of your evolution is the fact that you don't like being in the spotlight, right? It's like, oh, I don't want people to like me. Like, I don't want people to, you know, see me or perhaps you have this kind of mentality that you don't want to be recognized for solely your looks, right? So instead of, it's like, I don't want to put myself out there because I'm worried that I won't be taken seriously because they, you know, people typically only see me for the way I look, which is really interesting as well. But I want to dive in. I have not got this book out yet for any reading, but I do want to just pop in here real quick and see if there's anything I can add. I don't know why, but let's take a look. Ah, okay. Yeah, this is kind of what I was saying a little bit. So, you know, it says here, Don Juan can make us aware of falling into sex role cliche or misusing the power of romantic attraction. An underlying vulnerability and the power to open a heart capable of deep love can counter its negative aspects. Okay? So, I mean, I feel like for some, there may have been kind of this, I don't know, it just feels like a fear of maybe being alone or being rejected or something like that. And we're now being put in a position to discover, like, oh, I have this heart of gold. I have this wealth within myself that cannot be taken from me. Okay, so that's really interesting. Really, really interesting. Especially because Leos are such social creatures, and do, you know, kind of like being around people and things like this. I feel like you could find yourself, you know, maybe again kind of clinging to that, and that could be limiting your evolution. Okay, or fearing putting yourself out there on the other side of that, and that could be limiting your evolution. It's like, oh gosh, I don't want to put myself out there because what if somebody takes advantage of me, right? Like, or uses me for maybe just sex or some casual reason that, and I don't want that or something. Okay, it's very interesting. It's a very interesting card. Let's take a look at your advice, guidance, or encouragement for this month. You do have Archangel Hanael, honor your feelings. Thank you, Hanael, for supporting me as I honor my emotions. Yeah, this is, you know, I feel like Archangel Hanael, I mean, it's beautiful, and I'm so grateful for her showing up for you. I feel like she's stepping forward to say, right, or it, because they don't really have genders, but I feel like Archangel Hanael is being the bringer of grace. I feel like this is about you, like, be kind to yourself, right? Like be kind to yourself, and allow yourself to experience what you're experiencing. Give yourself some grace. You know, be compassionate to yourself. Because here's the thing, I feel like I don't know, it just feels like there could be several who will watch this who have really been through the ringer lately. And lately can mean a lot of things. You know, maybe it's just a few months that it's felt really, really heavy. Maybe it's been a few years that it's been pretty heavy on and off. But I feel like there's kind of this element of like having been through the ringer, really how would you say, having been very tested, right? And so I feel like there's a lot here for you to essentially open up your heart, allow yourself to feel the things that you're going to feel. I feel like it's important because I feel like many have pushed those big Leo feelings down to save self, right? As a form of survival, especially if you've had that big heart trampled on, especially if you've delivered it on silver platters and people have just shoved it back in your face or threw it on the ground or betrayed it or what have you, right? So I feel like it's important for you, Leo, to be working through your feelings and honoring what you're feeling and allowing yourself to do that while giving yourself grace, being kind to yourself, allowing yourself to feel the things that you should or do rather, right? And I feel like a big part of that is because, again, I feel like it is showing you the depth of who you are. Oftentimes Leo is seen very surface level, very, oh, it's like, oh gosh, you guys, I cannot say how many times I've been like, I'm better about it now. But like in the earlier stages of my like really real like awakening, I got so annoyed seeing all of these Leo Zodiac memes, where it's like, you know, oh, like all they want is attention. It's like, good God, find something else to talk about, because that is not like that is so like floaty on top of the water, right? I mean, Leo, you have this huge depth to you, huge, tremendous depth of emotion, and feeling, and I mean, I feel like it goes so unnoticed and so it's bypassed because it's like, oh, Leos are so focused on themselves and they just want attention, and it's like, good God. So, you know, so that being said, I feel like, you know, there's oftentimes just this focus on that. And I feel like many Leos have had to, at some point, push down the depths of who they are because it's like, no, like people refuse to see past that. So it's like, okay, well, you know, you just think I'm all about myself. I'm just going to push this away because you're unwilling to see anything else. And so, you know, I don't want to deal with it now because I just feel like I'm just all about myself. Right? I hope that makes sense. It's kind of like there's this big depth of emotion that has been tried to be expressed previously. And when you've attempted to do that, people are like, oh gosh, you're just so focused on you. And so you just start pushing it down and just not dealing with it. Like you know what I'm saying? So I feel like this is a big period of growth for you, Leo, to really address those bits of yourself that you've pushed down and to really acknowledge that they make up who you are and they really do contribute to that heart of gold that you have within you. And it is so, so, so very needed in this world, Leo. I cannot impress that upon you enough. It's so very needed and so valuable to have this depth of love and loyalty and emotion and warmth, and being able to tap into that and share it with others is something so incredibly powerful. And I hope that you are able to see that as you work through your healing even further. So Leo, that is what I have for you for April 2023. I want to thank you so very much for sharing your time, your energy, your attention, and of course your company with me. It has been an absolute pleasure to read for you. So thank you so very much. If there was something in this reading that resonated for you, please do the YouTube things by liking, sharing, commenting below, or subscribing to the channel. It really does help the channel to grow, and it tells YouTube that there may be something here for someone else. So I truly do appreciate that. I hope you have an incredible month, Leo. I'm praying that you are able to expand on what you've already been learning, and that you start to feel like things really are coming together for you, and that you're able to align with your highest timeline this month. Take care of your unique, beautiful, loving soul. Peace be with you and within you, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye.